Hey, it's Jeremy from jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you enjoy this channel, like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, you can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. The bonus live streams are extra long, 2.5, sometimes 3-hour long sessions or more. You also get access to a Patreon exclusive Discord server where we share tips, feedback, work in progress, general art shop talk, and more, and an online archive where you can read my comic books digitally. If you'd like to get a digital sketchbook, a free digital sketchbook, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. You also get work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspired me creatively. And if you would like to purchase physical copies of my comic books for free digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page where you can pick up my books. All right, so today on the docket, we are back to an illustration that I've been working on. I'm still tunneling away at getting this script finalized for my next comic. Let's see. Omar is here, and he says, could you draw a dinosaur, please? Well, when last I recall, I drew a dinosaur for a live stream for you before. Do you remember that? So I have done a dinosaur. That one is actually called How to Draw a T-Rex, and it is in the archives. So feel free to go back and rewatch that one if you would like. Let's see here. So this is a piece that I have been batting around for quite a while. So it is a piece on Greek mythology. And this is just the thumbnail. So if I actually go back, there's, let me go out of the main gallery and go to the actual full illustration. So this is the actual illustration. And one of the things I've changed since doing the thumbnail is I've realized that the shaft of light that's streaking across the sky here doesn't really work. It was something I actually asked my wife for feedback, and I just asked her what she thought. And that was one of the things she told me. She was like, that just looks like you just have like a banner of color going across it in the thumbnails. So I ditched it, and I've been working on it. It's strange because it really is going to be like I'm doing the same illustration twice, but doing these smaller color thumbnails where I can compare different styles, warm against cool, cool against warm. It just helps me figure out what do I want this final piece to be. Let's see here. Byron says, hey, people. And Omar says, no, I will. Okay, I will look. But yeah, I did an episode, and I thought that you were the one that requested it for me to draw a dinosaur. And I did a T-Rex episode. Although I am curious, were you asking just because you want to see a drawing of a T-Rex, or are you asking because you are having trouble drawing T-Rexes and there's something you want to understand about the process? Because I don't mind redrawing stuff for teaching purposes, but if it's just to draw a T-Rex, again, I don't have anything against drawing T-Rexes, but it isn't something that I would probably do on my own. There are certainly artists who are excellent at drawing dinosaurs, and that's more of their thing. Let's see here. All right, so I'm trying to figure out where I left off on this, because it's actually been a few days since I dabbled with this one as well. I think I was just trying to decide how bright I want, how bright and how saturated I want the background of this version to be. Because one of the things I was playing with is I actually really in my own personal tastes, I prefer the cool palette, but The challenge is that if you have the cool palette, the statues don't really stand out from it. Whereas if I go with a warm environment, cool statues, and then warm figure, you get the sense that they're in an environment. All of these figures are made of stone, and that she is made of flesh. And to me, while this is not what I envisioned when I first started working on the piece, this is more of this works better. It communicates the story. So really, it's just a matter of deciding whether I really want this this background to be, more saturated or less saturated, or maybe just going darker farther up. Let's see here. Just checking to see what's going on in the Discord server, because some of the gang is in the Discord server while we're streaming here. I guess really I'm just sitting here staring and comparing it to the others and just squinting, looking, thinking, imagining. Yep, nope. I think that this last one here works. I think that this is it. So maybe I take this and now go back to the larger version and just start painting. So let me start by taking this piece and let's copy all, which is basically a copy merge in Procreate. So it's giving me all the different layers I had that made up this piece. And now I can go back to the large one. Let's see where I am layer-wise. I've got a couple of other. This is what sort of led me down needing to do thumbnails. Is I thought, oh, I can just finish my line art and then I can go in here and start coloring. And this just was not working. So let me get rid of that layer completely. Got a little bit more contrast here. And now see, that's actually another interesting thing is that in doing this, I also upped the contrast. If I paste in the thumbnail here, I also upped the contrast on this piece. So I may have to flatten, have a merged version of the whole thing and do some color adjustments there. Pull that all the way out here. Okay. So I can just leave that as reference. And now the real question is, so I got my sketch layer in there, got my background sketch. Lighting. All right, so this is going to take some work here because I got to go into this lighting layer and basically paint out and also let me switch brushes. I'm not really using the brush that I was using for all of these. I know I have made my process too complicated. It really shouldn't have to have all of this hoopla and back and forth. To get to a finished piece. So I'm curious whether, yeah, that's what I thought. I was curious whether I had painted out that the light on the actual columns as well, and it looks like I did. So I just left the light on the statues and the Gorgon. So I'll stick with that. I mean, to a certain degree, this is fairly simple. It's just a matter of selecting a color and then just painting that same color. Wondering. It's at 50% opacity. Maybe I just need to erase that? Or maybe I just need to change the base color. That might be it. I'm just making this whole thing more complicated than it needs to be. No, that is not good. Actually, I already know what I think I've already figured out why this is not working the way I want it to, and it's going to be a pain in the ass, which is there's a layer that has lighting above this. And I think what I did was I painted some of that in a value that looked good at that 50% opacity that I have. And some of it I painted in a different value for areas that were not inside that shaft of light. I really should have done that entire shaft of light on a separate layer. Let's see here. Oh man. Byron Byron said, I figured out what I need to do, and it's a pain in the ass. The realest artist statement ever. Truth, man. Truth. It's all, you know what it is? It's always the thing that we absolutely do not want to do is what the piece needs. And I'm just like, oh man, but dude, it's gonna take forever. It's gonna suck. You're like, yeah, well, that's what it needs. That is the job. Because now when I put this extra layer on top here, in fact, let me just look and see what else that low opacity layer has. It darkens up the Poseidon in the front, and there's a little bit of shadow beyond that it adds in spots. But I think I will actually probably get better results by merging all of those layers and then adjusting the levels of that merged layer. So honestly, I think I can just get rid of, I can just get rid of this this layer that I have on low opacity. Don't need it. I mean, need it a little bit. If I compare turning this layer back on, no, not really. That seems fine. All right. I wonder, just out of curiosity, if I even bothered making any the save and load, which is basically like saving alpha channels for selection. I was curious if I even bothered to make any for this this piece, and I did not. Although I do need to go in here and clean up this sketch because I've got construction lines on her face, and those need to go. In fact, I should probably do a pass because I didn't really clean this up. I went from the rough sketch to working on the color. And you know what's weird? In a way, it's got me thinking about writing. Let's see here. Also, CJ King is in the chat. Good to see you. He says, "What's good, brother? What's good? Looking right as always." And Paul's in the chat. Hey, Paul. Which Paul has a fantastic comic that he's been running on Instagram, and I always catch. I need to go back and read your comic from the beginning because your dialogue is fantastic. You know, the pieces I get, like how it got in. I don't even know how we got to the part with the racetrack, the car race that's going on. But I feel like I need to go back to the beginning and just read the whole thing from start. But it's a great detective thriller, kind of noirish, kind of pulpy, little bit of a Tarantino feel, little Raymond Chandler. But I'm digging it. You're doing some great work, both on the writing and the art. So I love that. You guys, Paul Pate, definitely check him out. Look him up on Instagram. Check out his comic. I'm gonna actually try to pick up the full first chapter that you have published because I'm really enjoying what I've been reading online. Let's see here. Occasionally the screen is doing something weird. If anything goes weird with the visuals, let me know because I have this thing where the screen seems like it keeps blacking out for little chunks of time and then coming back. And I don't know if it's that one of my cables is loose or what. But yeah, if the screen keeps dropping out, let me know. All right. So last I spoke, I was fixing parts, painting parts of this background here. Just repainting the pillar in. Yeah, see, it's driving me nuts. Right here, when I look at this, it looks like the every few, like every 30 seconds or so, it seems like the screen, the monitor is like disappearing, dropping out, at least on my end. Particularly when I zoom in or zoom out. Well, no. See, now it's fine. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I don't know if that's happening on your guys' end. Yeah, Byron says it's happening on our end too. And Paul says, wow, thanks. Wait till the end for the printed. Lots of editing happening. Well, I look forward to seeing it when it's ready. Yeah, I have a different set of cables because I moved my setup temporarily a couple of days ago. And now I don't have my normal cables that I am connected to my my laptop through. So we'll just have to, unfortunately bear through it. At least it comes back. So that's something. I'll try to get that rectified before the next stream. So how was everybody's Thanksgiving? Did you guys have a good time? We just had a quiet family dinner, called some other family members that are a little bit further away. But, just quiet, peaceful, appreciative of our health, our family, our friends. Hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving as well. So let's see here. Yeah, Byron says the screen seems fine now. So yeah, it is odd. I don't know what's going on. Mighty Geek Studios. Good to see you, man. Thanks for dropping in. He says, what's the title of this book? So this is not a book. This is just a standalone illustration. And I've been kind of, I guess, treading water for the past few months because I'm still not done writing my next comic. And part of that is that I want to write out all 6 issues because I think of it as a graphic novel, as a completed story. So I want all of it to be written before I start drawing it. And it's not ready yet. Like the plot is there, but there's characterization problems, there's emotional beats that aren't worked out. And so because of that, I've just been spending my time doing other little projects. Like I was working on a series of storyboards a couple of weeks ago, which I finished thumbnailing, but actually that's another thing that I probably need to come back to and complete as well. But I was just in the mood to work on a single illustration. But I have really, for someone who opens their stream with talking about being a comic book creator, I have not been drawing a comic book on screen since I finished the final issue of Morningstar during the pandemic. And I think that is one part of it is perfectionism, which is bad. I should not be sitting there stalling and delaying, trying to make something perfect. I should just get on with the story. That is true. However, what is important is that with each project that we complete, we learn something. We learn, we grow, and ideally, we want to do the next book better than the one before. So that's the challenge that I have is I'm looking at the story as I have it right now, and I could just push ahead and draw it get the script finished up, draw it as it's currently written, and just put it out there. But it wouldn't be pushing my work forward. And that is the thing that's holding me up, is that I feel like the book, the only way to say it is that the book could be deeper. Could be deeper. Right now, it's kind of a surface adventure fantasy story. And it'd be fun, but I want something. Okay, this is the other thing. Other friends that I've told about some of the struggles I have said, dude, you're putting way too much on this. Honestly, I've been told that I'm being too ambitious. But I want to do something that has the emotional resonance of, say, Jeff Smith's Bone. I'm not trying to do a 1,000-page epic. It's just 6 issues. But I want the depth of the story to be the depth of that level. And that is a high bar. But if we're not going to aim for a high bar, it's like you have to, if you shoot for the stars, then maybe you'll get to the mountaintop. That's what I'm shooting for. I know that I have to reach much, much farther than I've ever reached before just to get a little bit farther better. So that is the reason why I'm sitting here drawing something that isn't a comic or a comic book cover. Although I think this would make a fine cover. And one of the other things I really should do is I should take some of my best art prints that I've made, and just redo them as or write stories about them, not redo them, but write stories about them. Now, here's something I'm thinking. I'm wondering whether I want to even use this sketch layer, or maybe try to paint the whole thing without lines, just paint it with color. I'm tempted. I'm really tempted. Knowing full well that it's going to be a pain in the ass. Knowing that. But hell, why do stuff if it's going to be easy? I mean, why do stuff, only do the stuff if it's easy? If I wanted easy, I wouldn't be an artist. Back to you guys. Mighty Geek Studios says Thanksgiving was great for me. Says trying to building from a character sketch. Oh, in terms of story. Well, it's not so much that I don't know the characters' personalities. What it is that I have this theory that it's about figuring out what makes you care about the journey the characters go on. And it's the relationships. To me, my theory is that it's the relationships between the characters. And by that token, what I'm trying to do is I'm rewriting my outline from a relationship standpoint. So if you were to take out all of the locations, all of the creatures that they fight, all of the action, remove all of that, and simply this character meets this character. This character cares about this character. This character rejects this character. This character feels betrayed by this character. What are the back and forth between the characters? This character discovers that they misunderstood what this other character meant the whole time, and it changes their perspective of what their other actions were. And what I want to do is that story, that part, just the emotions, the relationships, that has not been worked out the way it should be. I was just working on plot, the surface structure. So what I'm trying to do now is tear out all of the plot, work on their relationships, have the relationships be like, if you just told people this is what these characters experienced, if I can make that a story that you care about, then put the plot back on top of the relationship structure now and move the elements and the plot points around, shift it around so that it works, so that everything resonates with the relationships between the characters. That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I do have a character sketch, like, a written sort of a biography of all the characters, but working out how they interact with each other is the part that it's not that I'm stuck on it. It takes time, and I've had very little time to work on it. Most of the time, and I'll tell you, this is the interesting thing about doing work publicly, about doing work on social media, doing it on YouTube, posting stuff online. Doing art, drawing, is my emotional safe space. It's what helps me relax. It's what helps me deal with anxiety. It's what helps me deal with depression. It's what helps me deal with stress and frustration. Art, that's I think that's true for a large percentage of us. I will not say all. And when it comes to writing, I do enjoy writing. Believe it or not, even though I kind of procrastinate. It's one of those things where it's hard to get started, but once I do start, damn it, with the cable again. I can hear it clicking on and off. You know what? All right, I'm gonna real quick try to pull the cable and then plug it back in, and hopefully it won't freak out. Try that. Then that is so weird. I'm gonna come back to the comments in the chat in a minute. I'm just trying to figure out why this is not giving me any visual whatsoever. Hmm. Technology. And I was getting ready to say something deep too. Hang on, let me see if I have another cable nearby that I can swap this out with. Yeah, real exciting live stream, huh, guys? All right, sorry about that. Let's try this. That and that and let's see here. Switch to, that's just me again in stereo. What is going on? What in the name of Pete? Huh. Huh. I know this sucks. We were talking about interesting storytelling stuff in the chat. I was talking about writing and art and emotional, self-care. And now I'm sitting here stuck just trying to get my screen to show up. All right. I am going to remove that from the stream and go back to me real quick. And let me just restart the visual connector here. Real-time live stream surgery. Let's see if this fixes it. If it doesn't, you're just gonna be stuck looking at my stupid face. Let's go back to the other cable because at least that worked some of the time. I hope this isn't my USB port dying. Come on. Well, worst case scenario, what I can do is I can turn on the camera that I use when I'm doing figure drawing and just bring it down over my tablet. Yeah. James is like having technical difficulties. Word. That is putting it mildly. Yeah, Mighty Geek says it appears there might be a short in your cables. Because yeah, I can literally hear it doing the thing where it clicks on and then off again. Stupid cable. I'm gonna try this one more time, and then I'm just gonna connect the overhead camera. If this doesn't work, yeah, that's not working. So let's switch to this. Bring this guy down here. Well, this will be an interesting change of pace because you'll be able to see my hand while I'm drawing, where normally you're just seeing the screen. Yeah, see, that's fine. So it absolutely has to be the cable. So let's bring this. The best way to adjust this. There we go. Slightly janky setup. And to be honest, yeah, I'd probably turn that light off. Let's scoot this over. See, the other thing is that now everything is going to be a lot fuzzier than it normally is. I wonder what happens if I turn that off. Yep. The ring light does the trick. I think this lighting is fine. In fact, now I realize the whole time I've been drawing, the two lights that I have here, these are for me, for when I'm drawing physically. But for the screen with this, it actually doesn't need, like when I'm drawing on paper, I need all that light blasting down. But I never tried it with just my ring light I have in front of me. That seems to work okay. So let me, I still need to add, you guys can't see what I've been talking about this whole time, which is that I plugged this in. There we go. All right, so now you guys should be able to see my screen, which you can actually see my hands now while I'm working. Only problem is that this camera isn't as high def as I would like. So, but overall, it's working. And that's all I want. By hook or by crook. problem solving is the nature. Byron, you're on fire. He's like, we live. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, problem solving is all we do as creative people, whether it's writing, design, selling our work. It's just sitting there, a challenge comes up, and then we got to figure out how to deal with that challenge. And I also just realized, where my stupid glove? So anyway, what I was saying before about I guess procrastination is that it's not that I'm procrastinating on writing, although it might be a form of procrastination. But while writing is still pleasurable for me, I do actually enjoy it. It doesn't give me sort of the psychic refuge that drawing does. Drawing, just the act of putting marks down on a surface, whether it's paper or drawing digitally, it brings me inner peace and calm. Writing does not do that. It's kind of like that thing of saying, I hate writing, but I love having written. If you guys have heard that expression before. And I don't hate writing, but the result of writing is pleasurable. The act of it does not give me the same relaxation that drawing does. And because of that, I have found that when I come home from a hard day's work, and more than anything, I just want to feel good, I will choose to draw instead of write. Maybe it's working on homework from my figure drawing class I've been taking. Maybe it's working on thumbnails for a piece like this. Maybe it's working on a final piece. But the writing is suffering because I want to do something that is a little bit more therapeutic for me, which is just the picture making act. So I'd say that more than anything is what's been holding up me getting back to presenting you more comic process work. Now, back into the comments. I'm scrolling back. By the way, Paul said looks great despite glitches. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that greatly. Byron says it's always a precarious balance. On one hand, you should never let perfectionism stop you from actually doing something. On the other hand, you also want to reach a base level of happiness with it. And that's the thing. I have actively tried to push forward and say, I'm just going to work quickly. I'm going to do speed paintings, or I'm going to do rough sketches and just make something to get it done. And I have found that I'll end up with several works that I'm not happy with. And I'm like, why did I even bother to make this? And I think that there is truth to that idea of, if you sit there, I think we've all heard that story. Anyone who makes something has heard that story of the pottery class where they grade one half of the class on quality and one half of the class on quantity. And the class that's made on quality, they spend the entire time and they may make 3 or 4 pieces, and they're good pieces. They really took their time with it. And then you have the quantity class, and they maybe made 50 to 100 pots, but they also had the best quality because they had many more try-fail cycles. They had many more cycles of repetition and learning. Maybe that's the problem, is I haven't dove or dived, or whatever the proper word is. I haven't gone deeply enough into repeating the cycle and repeating the process. I completely acknowledge that might be my problem. And I keep telling myself, stop being so precious. But, preciousness is what makes me want to make stuff. And I think having finished works that I am unhappy with to me, that is the discouraging thing. Well, it's discouraging in the sense that I look at it and I'm like, see, I should have taken my time. That's what my instinct tells me. I should have taken my time. There's also part of me that says, you're wrong. You're just not doing enough work. I'm literally trapped between those two ideas. The idea of pushing your craft and your abilities versus I'm just not doing enough. And maybe that's something I should actually talk about in my figure drawing class, because we do kind of have sort of an open floor for discussing process. It's something for me to think about. Let's see here. And Byron says that is quite a high bar for the number of issues you're aiming for. So there's the trade-off when it comes to length and depth. Compressed storytelling can only go so far after all. Well, part of it also is that I'm trying to write this in such a way that each issue, it's not necessarily that it's a standalone story, but I want to try and make each issue kind of a satisfying fairy tale fable. But each issue also leads towards leads you further down the overall story structure. So that it's almost like when you get to the end, you're like, oh, this is something that was bigger than just this individual piece of a fairy tale that I got. And I think that that's hard. If honestly, when I think of a writing example to compare it to, instead of comics, I'm thinking about TV. And there's a TV show by Ryan Johnson, the guy who did Knives Out and Looper and The Last Jedi. I generally love everything he does, and he had an amazing TV series that he was the. I don't know if I don't think he directed all of the episodes, but he was sort of like the showrunner and producer of it. There's a show on Peacock called Poker Face, which to me is one of the best TV series of the last decade, and its premise is real fun, real simple. It is a woman, Natasha Lyonne, who basically can tell when people are bullshitting her. She knows when people are lying. She's a human lie detector. There's no science behind it. They never explain it. She just can tell, and she'll just like bullshit. She'll just call people on the shit, and she just gets caught up in different crime situations where she is on the run from one crime lord, and that is all explained in the first episode. And as she's traveling from town to town, she just goes through different parts of the country and encounters people that are either victims of crimes or people that are committing crimes. And she knows she should mind her own business and just worry about keeping her head down. But at her heart, she's a good soul and she wants to help people. So she gets involved. My greater point is that the overall series has an arc and a story to it, but the individual episodes each feel like they are self-contained stories. And it's kind of like a modern day, they make no bones about saying that it's an homage to Columbo, the old TV mystery series. And even the opening credits are designed to match Columbo. But let's see here. Let me get back down to the comments. Byron says, no one cares. He says, no one cares about the plot if no one cares about the character. I agree. And let's see here. Mighty Geek says, start with the feeling of betrayal. Well, the feeling of betrayal is just something I threw out in terms of a potential part of the story arc, the actual things that they feel towards each other. That betrayal point isn't necessarily the thing that the story rotates about. But I think Jay King thought that I was going to wrap it up. I'm too stubborn. I had to try and figure out how to fix the problem. He says, thank you, brother. Thank you for your time. Enjoy. Yeah, so still here. And Paul says, learning keeps you young. You can learn your whole life. I want to learn my whole life. I hope I keep learning my whole life. I honestly am one of those people who falls into the habit of too much study and not enough finished work. Like I usually am taking figure drawing classes every semester. I'm always trying to refine my draftsmanship. Hello. Hi, Khaleesi. All right, I gotta pull my cat condo next to the table, otherwise she's just gonna sit here meowing. All right, sweetheart. Between the cables and the cats, it's a wonder I get anything drawn here. Oh, come. All right. Table's over here. She'll hop up when she's ready. And Paul says, be ambitious, go for it. Yeah, I mean, I am going for it. And really, you know what's crazy is I told myself after finishing Morningstar that was an ambitious project. I told myself the next thing I'm going to do is just going to be a simple story, and I'm just going to do stuff and have fun. And I'm not going to worry too much about the writing, and I'm not going to worry too much about the art. But I keep coming up with these ideas and these stories that are a little bit more high concept, and they keep taking more. Whoop, there you go. There you go, sweetheart. They keep, to me, demanding more of me creatively. But I do look forward to the idea of doing something where I'm just shooting from the hip and just having fun and making it up as I go along. I just feel that the particular story I'm working on right now would be a disservice to this story. But yeah, I think that it's one of those things where I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I really do believe that there is something to learn and gain from spontaneous creativity, from not doing the deep dive and just cranking the work out. There's positives to that, as well as to deep meditative contemplation on your story, on the who and the why, and why this story even matters, why these characters matter. Having both that as well as just rocking out creatively, they both have their place, and they're both important. Let's see here. And Mighty Geek says, without the occasional hiccups, we will never succeed. And he says, sometimes it's hard to visualize what you're writing. And this is why you need another set of eyes. Yeah, that is true. You know, I've shown a few people some of the writing at its early stages, but also, oh hey, Jim Lujan is in the chat. Sorry it took me so long to get down to the comment. Good to see you, Jim. Thanks for rolling through. You know what? I keep saying that I'm gonna have you on the stream sometime. It's like I go through periods where I've got people on as guests, and then I go through periods where I'm just working on something. But at some point, I need to set up a time with you and just get on and just chop it up and catch up. So hopefully, maybe we can do that sometime soon. I'll shoot you a message. But yeah, we need to talk. Always great to see the great Jim Lujan, great animator, great storyteller, great artist. It's so weird. This whole thing is running slow. Paul says it's never the cable. He says this is pure drama. I'm loving it. Scroll down a little bit. Let's see. And Byron says, as always, everything goes down the moment one tries to be productive. Jim says, "Oh, you too, Paul?" Paul, and he's like, "Yo, Jim." And, it's I like it when friends of friends pop up and are catching up in the stream. It's good to be around, see other people who got love for each other hanging out. Um, let's see here. Mighty Geek Studios says sometimes the deep dive is unnecessary if you want a simple story. Well, you know what? I think again, it's kind of what I was going at before, is that I do really believe that there is a time and a place for it, and there are times when you don't need the deep dive and just make the surface story. But I think actually I probably did not describe the process that got me here well in the first place, because what I started with, this is the thing that I left out in telling you all of this. And I'm just realizing now that I left out a vital piece of information. So I started with making it a simple story, and it was more like 6 short fantasy stories that were interconnected. They were kind of like more like fables almost. And I wrote them, and the plot wrapped up in a nice way. The overall, the story is interconnected. And I just read it and I'm like, this feels flat. It feels dead. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel good. It feels like it's a story, but it doesn't feel like a story that has to be told, you know? And I was trying to figure out what's broken, what is not working. And to the credit of the comments that a lot of you have said earlier, that yeah, if the characters aren't working, the story's not going to work. And I was really thinking, like, why is it that they're not working? And that's, when we went back to Mighty Geek saying about character sketches, that's when I rewrote my character sketch, went in deeper, wrote more about their biography and their past and potential futures. And I was doing deep dives into characters, and I was just trying to figure out why the story wasn't working. And when I was thinking just about character, I was like, the characters are interesting people. This should matter. And then I realized, that's when I stumbled upon the relationships. I was just trying to, I was looking at other stories. And that's another thing. I spent time where, for me, I wasn't writing, but I was researching by looking at other stories and making notes and trying to break them down. Some that were film stories, some that were novels, TV shows, and just trying to break down why stories that people do care about, why do they care? And then in that research, that's when I realized it was the relationships. The relationship. It's not that, you've heard the expression plot is character and character is plot. I think that story, not plot, but story is relationships, and relationships are the merging or the core of relationships, are where character meets story. You have a character, they can be a fascinating character. If they just do stuff, it's plot. But if you have a character that has a relationship, and that relationship might be with a person, it might be with an environment, because it could be like Castaway. If that, what it could be with a group of people, it could be with themselves, it could be with family, whatever it is. But that relationship and how it changes, that to me is story. And this isn't like it's not like I've had this long theory about story that's, that I've been sitting on. It's that the process of figuring out why the simple version. So what you're saying, Mighty Geek, that's where I started. I started with just make a simple story. Just have the characters go on these adventures. And when that didn't work, I had to ask myself why. So the place where I am at right now in this writing is me trying to solve the why of why it isn't working. And I'm sure, I don't know if that's true of you, but I feel like for most of us, at some point you get to the experience of writing something or making something, and You did all of the right things, and the story should be good, but it's not. And the question is, what do you do then? And that is the stage where I'm at now, where it's not that I don't know what to do. It's exactly like when I said the thing at the beginning about painting out the painting out all of the light that was shining through the background around this trident. It was looking at that and saying, yeah, I know what needs to be done. It's just a pain in the ass. That's where I'm at right now. I know what needs to be done. It's just a pain in the ass. But what needs to be done isn't surface and it isn't simple. And I think that there are stories that should just be surface and simple. So I also agree with you on that. And this leads me into that constant loop of struggling between pushing yourself creatively versus just get it out there. Just get it out there. Just do a simple story. To me, both ideas are true and both ideas have their place. And I just find myself trapped between the two at different times. All right. And I think I also need to paint out the lights behind this. Let me make sure I'm on the right layer here, lighting layer. What's odd is I love construction lines, but I feel like what I'm doing more than anything at this stage is I need to paint out a lot of these construction lines. All right, let me go back here to the comments. So Mighty Geek says, how do the characters fit into the story? Well, it's kind of a sort of a lone wolf and cub story, and it's really just about how these two characters' relationship change and grow and evolve while they, travel through a fantasy land fighting monsters. But it's also about the relationship between these characters and the monsters. Because I also think that just plain simple, these monsters are bad, these characters are good. I'm also trying to create villains that are a little bit more nuanced. Like they're still mythological creatures, they're still monsters, and they still want to do horrible things. But I'm trying to get deeper into, I don't want you to root for them. It's not that I'm trying to create monsters that you empathize with, but I want you to understand why they do what they do. Like you may not think, you're still like, oh, you are still a monster. You're still a horrible creature, but I at least see why you're doing what you're doing. It's not necessarily mindless. And I don't know if I'm even going to achieve that, because with the archetypes that I'm playing with, their actions are kind of mindless. They are kind of like the old dragon that eats the princess. Why? Well, why does a dragon want to eat a princess anyway? It does deal with stuff like that. So it's just wanting the story to be better than anything I've written before, which is a high, if not insane bar. But I do feel like everything you do should get better and better and better. I mean, what's going to happen is I'm going to get to a point where I will have made the story as good as I can possibly make it. And when it's as good as I can make it, then I'm just going to start drawing it. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I know that and I acknowledge that. But right now, it's not as good as it could be. And that is what drives me and keeps me from diving in and showing you guys the process of me working on it right now. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I know that it's not my best work. And that's the question, is what do you do when you have something that isn't your best work? you can put it out anyway. And if I were working for a publisher, I would have to put it out because there's deadlines. This is where being self-published can be a bit of a downside because no one is telling me you have to have this book out by this date. No one's penalizing me. The only penalty for not having a book out is that my career as a self-published storyteller is taking longer to grow. But other than that, no one really cares if it takes me, 3 years to put out my next book versus 2 years. I mean, you guys might say, we care, damn it, get the book done. And if I hear that from enough people, then I will be like, all right, I guess I need to get off my ass. But in the grand scheme of things, one, I don't think people really care about how long it takes me to finish it. And two, I think people would probably prefer me to have a well done book versus a finished book. Now, if this is that layer, and that's the sketch layer, why is this? Okay, no, that is erasing. All right, too many layers. All right, guys, let's see here. We're a little bit over an hour here, so I think we're going to wrap it up. Let me just take the last couple of comments from Mighty Geek Studios. And he says, simple stories are your weakness because you've been creating deep stories for so long. Well, I would argue actually that my first book, Eye of the Gods, is not particularly deep. It's kind of a straightforward story. But no, your point is taken. Morningstar was a pretty deep story. And I still feel like I didn't go as deep as I should have. He says, then ask yourself why the monsters are perceived this way. Well, they're perceived this way because they represent the fears of humanity, at least in my story. So I understand why they are perceived the way they are. It's just a matter of putting that in the context of, like I said before, relationships between the characters. So, all right, guys, on that note, we are going to come back to ye old big screen. And I'm going to move that out of the way there. I mean, who knows? Maybe streaming with this lighting might become the ongoing way of doing it. The only thing that I worry about is how much of a reflection it gives me when I'm showing the books. But anyway, with all of that said, if you enjoy these live streams and would like to see additional bonus live streams twice a month, we do a thing called Art Book Study Group on Patreon. They're 2.5 hour, sometimes longer, 2.5 hour live stream sessions where we have a voice channel open. So as opposed to just typing in the chat, we can actually just talk directly. You hop in the voice channel and we can just talk about whatever. Sometimes we'll do drawovers of people's artwork if they send me pieces for feedback. Mostly we do deep dives in some of the best art books around, and I sit down and I show you my process for how I try to improve my craft. Just redrawing from some of the best art books out there. Right now we're doing a long running series on Walt Reed's The Figure, which I think in terms of figure fundamentals, just these simple understanding structure and volume and basic anatomy, I think that's probably one of the best books out there. Like I think it actually gets structured down a little bit simpler than Bridgman. It's not better than Bridgman, but it's straightforward. Like Bridgman, you kind of have to actually know a certain amount already in order to really utilize what he's telling you. So first, when you're starting out, I feel like Bridgman is actually a little too complicated for people at the beginning of their craft. Anyway, long-running series of videos. If you become a subscriber, if you become a member of our community, there's probably like 60, 70 videos that are all 2.5, 3 hours long that's already archived for you to watch. And then every 2 weeks, so twice a month, we do 2 sessions. And You can get that. You have access to our Patreon exclusive Discord server where we continue conversations like this throughout the month. I share works in progress. I share exercises, figure drawings that I'm doing. Everyone else is welcome to share in the community as well, and we talk to each other about what we're doing. Sometimes it's just sharing. Sometimes it is getting feedback from each other. People in the community give me feedback on my pieces, and it's great to have a second separate eye there as well. All of that for as little as $2 a month. So head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. There are descriptions in the, well, there's links in the description of the video. I'm getting loopy. Slightly out of practice from having a week off. If you have to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to pick up physical copies of my comic books, or if you read digitally on Kindle, you go to amazon.jeremy.net. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It is a standalone psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. You can pick up my most recent project, Morning Star. It's in 2 volumes. It is Lucifer's Fall from Heaven told as a Western. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains issues 5 through 8. Both volumes have extensive back matter, thumbnails, script excerpts, page layouts, character designs, photo reference. I show you basically how I put together the entire series. And for all 3 of these books, there are book flip through videos on the homepage of my YouTube channel. So if you just go to youtube.com/Jeremy, you can go there, scroll down to book flip throughs. You can see what's inside these books before you pick them up. All right, guys. Thank you again, as always. I love the great conversations, and I like the fact that we can wander from the technical and process stuff to sort of the philosophical, the getting into the writing process, and back again, and just to have fun and goof around too. So I love having you guys there to share this with. Greatly appreciated. And and thank you again for the shout out there, James. Just some good reads there. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. That's it for now. Go be creative.